better. The Nuggets were really good. The Blazers are bad. This is Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome in to Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making this part of your day. There's a dog that's so excited to have
Can you hear that? Oh, wow. That's like in the distance.
Like jumping to go for Locked On Nuggets after the Nuggets get a win versus the Portland Trailblazers. Want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We are free and we're available on all platforms. On today's show, lots to get to. A big win over the Blazers, not a big win, a big win margin-wise over the Blazers, a get-right spot. We're going to talk about what the arena was like, what the team is like, my observations from pregame through postgame, and all those types of things. Lots of news to get to. MPJ, is he going to come back? We're going to talk about where the DeMarcus Cousins situation is at. The Bol Bol trade that did not happen. Awkward. We're going to get to all of that today on the show. As a reminder, you can catch us on YouTube, which is where we stream these live, and you can join in the chat. Already got some folks coming in to talk. Zamora King says, "Good morning, you beautiful people." What a lovely message.
I love when people spread positivity on the internet. So rare. Good job, so Zamora.
So big ups to Zamora. So here we are.
Real quick, I just want to say on that note, we're going.
I can't even get out the score. I can't even get the score out before you're real quick. What interruptions? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, if you subscribe to us on the YouTube, if you're at work or whatever, then you also hit that little bell when you hit the subscribe button right next to the bell, and it'll send you a push notification whenever we go live. So if you do like joining us, like we have a bunch of people in the chat right now, you never want to miss it. Just hit that little bell, and that way you'll always know when we're live and you can interact with us on the show.
I want to push you. I want to give you pushes. I want to give you push notifications. I want to push you around. I will.
Oh my
That's
God.
Right. That's a Matchbox 20
Let's
drop
go.
at 10:19 in the morning Mountain Time. All right. Last night, the Nuggets get a very comfortable, very satisfying 140-108 win over the Portland Trailblazers, or whatever is left of the smoldering heap of that franchise. No CJ McCollum, no Damian Lillard, no Norman Powell, the absolute dregs of the roster, except for Yusuf Nurkic, franchise cornerstone, who, oh boy, do I have thoughts on Yusuf Nurkic. But more importantly, I got thoughts on Will Barton and how much Will Barton helped the Nuggets last night. Everything that you saw in the Clippers game, from can't get their own shot, can't create anything off ball, can't do anything. Will Barton comes back and you're like, oh, okay, that's what it looks like when you have your starting two guard. Barton was fantastic last night before he left the game with a neck injury after slamming into Yusuf Nurkic. That was a scary moment where he was down for several minutes. I was very concerned for Will. Glad to see he got up. He was moving around, and I think he dunked during a timeout too. So I think he's going to be okay, even if he has to miss the Lakers game. We'll see. Last night, 21 points for Will Barton on 7 of 12 shooting, 4 rebounds, 2 assists. Nikola Jokic did not have to lead the team in scoring. That's always a good sign. He was great. Aaron Gordon was very quiet, but he did all the things that you need him to do. 8 boards, 4 assists. Jeff Green dunked the ball 800 times.
No, say it. He dunked it 5 times, which we found out from the stats people with the Nuggets that it's actually the most since 2008. I think that was the stat we saw. I love these stats coming out about Jeff Green. I have no idea what's going on with him, but this dude, he is such a fun dunker.
Yeah, he really is. He used to back in the day with the Thunder. He was he had some of my favorite dunks. He was the best dunker on that OKC team, even better than Russ and KD. He was a phenomenal dunker on those Thunder teams.
Better than Russ. Russ is also a great in-game dunker.
Yeah, no, Jeff, because Jeff can do the full-on tomahawk. He can do the full-on tomahawk with a big old leap on it. Great night from Facu Campazzo. Great bounce-back spot for him. 7 of 10 shooting, 18 points, 12 assists, 4 steals, the nutmeg. Can I ask you, is that a nutmeg if it's a dribble and not a pass? I thought it had to be a pass.
I thought so too. It's funny you bring this up because I thought the same thing. We do need another name for the one where it's a nutmeg dribble because it's also a great move. It's more rare, but I'm with you. I thought the same thing when everyone called it a nutmeg. I guess in soccer, that's what a nutmeg is usually, right? It's actually more of a self pass. So maybe
Yeah.
that's a true nutmeg, and the pass nutmeg is the one that's different.
So it would be very easy for me as the always bring it down when it's up, always bring it up when it's down guy to be like, well, look, this team wasn't really like this was come on, it's the Blazers. Let me make this very, very clear. This is a great win. You want to know why? The Nuggets are now 14-6 on the season versus teams under 500. That is a good mark. You want to try and keep that number under 10 for the season. It's okay to be a little bit higher if necessary. There.
I'm here. Yeah, I can see it. Did I freeze again?
No, I actually have lost the page that my screen is on. So getting these wins versus those types of teams is really important. Like, this is what the second half of the schedule is. There are good teams sprinkled throughout. They got to play the Warriors a bunch. They play the Lakers a few times. But for the most part, when you look through the schedule, there's a lot of spots where they're going to have an opportunity to get wins versus bad teams. I said this from the very beginning when the schedule came out. I said the Nuggets schedule is easy, but it's backloaded. It's everything on the back side of it is easy. They need to win these games. This is how they're going to get in the playoffs. This is how they're going to avoid the play-in, is winning these games. And bouncing back, especially winning your second half since November, which Malone mentioned pregame and we're just like head explode about, was very good, I think, for everybody. Just to be like, okay, like let's put the hammer down, win a second half, win comfortably, no letdowns. Yes, you were at a huge advantage and you should win, but that's the point. Win the games that you should win until you get Jamal back and whoever else, and then you can worry about beating the good teams, getting into the playoffs. Focus on winning these games. It was a great performance.
Not only that, I mean, you look at it, you're right that this Blazers team was so bad that it's hard to say like, oh, it was a good win just to beat them. You needed to beat them by a lot, and that's what happened. 140 points you put up, which is okay. That's what you expect. They actually performed the way you would expect against a really bad team. But then more importantly, or equally as importantly, there were certain like little boxes you wanted to check here. Facu have a good game, kind of a bounce back. Absolutely. Played fantastic. He was incredible. Bones Highland, you needed to see him make some 3-pointers. Well, he had tied a career high with 5 of them. Zeke Naji, you wanted to feel good about, see something positive. 4 offensive rebounds, 16 and 9, 6 of 8 shooting. Even, the Jeff Green part. Will Barton hasn't really had a lot of really good games. This one, I thought, this was one of his better games that we've seen since that opening, 10-game stretch or whatever. I thought he was fantastic in every facet of this game, and he even looked like he had a little pep in his step. So to me, you did want to see, and then you mentioned the second half. That was the other box you wanted to check. So all of these things, it's not just that they won, it's that they checked a lot of the boxes that you were like, this is what I want to see tonight. So to me, I agree. It actually is a good win, and especially when we talk about the 6-game homestand within the context of how important the stretch is, that was the right way to start this and hopefully build some momentum for what is going to be a very big weekend for the Nuggets.
I have a little moment to share with you. Nurkic, as he is wont to do, was vacillating between being completely lazy and checked out and moping and pouting, and then like dealing with this frustration by giving hard screens and elbows and those types of things, because that's how he gets. And he gave Monte a pretty hard screen, and Jokic, like after the play, like Jokic came up to him and kind of patted him. And then on the very next play, Jokic grabbed the ball and whipped around him for an easy score. Like it was just, it was very much like hey, I'm not going to put 40 on you.
Yeah.
Don't make me.
I love that story. That's a great one.
Yeah, it was a great, I thought it was a really good Jokic game just because, look, 28-7 in 28 minutes. This is one of my things I love about Jokic is that he does not feel the need to be like, I'm going to run up my numbers in this game because I can, and it's easy. Like if he needs to score 40, he's going to try and score 40. If he needs to put up numbers, he's going to try and put up numbers. If it's a game where everybody else can eat, he doesn't have to. He's totally fine.
1,000%. Yes. I actually brought this up the other day that I know I'm going to be the hater here. I'm going full hater, and I like Joel Embiid. I actually did a podcast with my buddy Dave DeFore today praising Joel Embiid in the year he's having. But he is definitely 1,000% a guy who tonight would have put up 40 points. It like bumped that average up a little bit. And been like, oh, this is a feel-good Embiid game. I think Jokic was the guy that's like, you know what? Barton, we need to get him going. All these other guys, I can just do my job tonight. And I also love that about him.
Yeah. I want to talk about the vibes because I will say this, Malone came in for pregame and I was really curious to see what he would be like, right? Because like that loss was catastrophic versus the Clippers. His vibe was very different last night. He was introspective. He was like, he mentioned that in the meeting in the morning that he'd asked the assistant coaches, he'd said, what do you think was harder, the bubble last season or this season? And to me, like, one, it's not a good thing that he's in that mindset, because that literally means that he is forced to reconcile with like how not traumatic's too hard of a word, but how difficult and burdensome the last couple of seasons have been on him personally. But I do think that introspection probably leads to some realizations. He mentioned that, recovering from that game, he said, yes, you deal with it, you face it, you deal with like how upset you were and how tough that loss was. But then you bring everybody in and you hug them and you let them know that you care about them, because like you move on from it. And it was a nice, like, I'm not going to get too far ahead. We'll see how they do over the next couple of games, right? Because the schedule's tough over this next stretch during the homestand. But it did feel a little bit like when he kind of realized in 2018 that he was choking up too hard. Little bit. And when I went out and was watching the court, I kind of saw the same thing. Like the vibe was much better. Like that team played free and easy and seemed like they wanted to be there and they were glad to be with each other. And they seemed much less burdened by everything. Maybe it was just, being home, fun opponent, etc. But the team genuinely played with joie de vivre last night. And I think that's important.
Basketball is such a beautiful sport. And a lot of this is that everything takes such a balance. You need to be able to knock down the three, but you can't fall too far in love with the three. You've got to also attack. You got to find the right balance. The same thing is true, I think, emotionally. You can't let things slide. You've got to be hard. You've got to be intense, but you can't be too intense. You can't be too hard on the guys. You got to have a little bit of freedom. And I think that for an 82 game season, you like the best teams can stay more balanced, kind of like this, the entire, the seed, maybe you get a little out, you correct. But most teams are going to have moments where things kind of fall out of whack and you have to like constantly reflect and say, okay, I need to push back the other way now. And I need to kind of balance it out. And I agree with you. Malone was very reflective in his pregame commentary. And I have to imagine the last 48 hours for him were a very reflective 48 hours.
Yeah. So there's not much more to cover, I don't think, on the game. Like we could do like an X's and O's breakdown of what worked, but this was the Nuggets played their brand of basketball. They had more energy, more life, and were way better 1 through 12 than what was left of the Blazers. There's a lot of other stuff to get to, which we'll get to after the break, because I want to get into a lot of the news around the Nuggets, and we'll talk about more of where the team is at, and we'll look at the games coming up this weekend.
Big weekend.
The Jazz.
Big
weekend for the Nuggets. We'll do that when we come back. But first, I want to tell you about PrizePicks. You've been hearing us tell you about PrizePicks for months. Have you signed up yet? Because if you haven't, now's the perfect time. For a limited time, PrizePicks has an exclusive no-brainer of an offer for all of our listeners. Users get $50 for free if a player in your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point, but you got to use code NBA. That's right. This is an exclusive offer available to Locked On fans only who use code NBA. PrizePicks has the best NBA DFS prop game on the market. They offer more NBA props than any other DFS operator and offer all the superstar players as well as the bench players. I've been playing props. One of the things I've been doing is taking assists over for teams that play at the level like Denver used to, and then take the under for teams that play more drop because of the changes in that. A little bit of a tip from me. PrizePicks offers any prop you can think of, from points, assists, rebounds, threes made, etc. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times an entry. It's just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks also allows mixed sport entries, so you can get in on the NFL playoffs this weekend as well. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. PrizePicks is safe and offers fast withdrawals. Go to prizepicks.com today or go to your App Store and download the app. Users that deposit and use our promo code NBA, again, get $50 free if your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. That's right. All users that deposit and use promo code NBA get $50 free if your first PrizePicks entry scores a single point. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for making Locked On Nuggets your first listen. For your next listen, check out Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. Listen to Locked On Now on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watch it on the Locked On NBA YouTube channel. Back here with Adam Maris, second segment here after the Nuggets get a win versus the Portland Trail Blazers. So, Adam, let's talk about a number of things that we should probably get to. Where do you want to start? We got a lot of stuff on the docket here. Where do you want to start?
Well, I guess the Bol Bol stuff is the most recent, maybe the most fresh. So you can start there.
So let's do this. Bol gets, let's just recap the situation. Bol gets traded to the Pistons in exchange for Rodney McGruder and a second round pick. And we covered it in real briefly on the last show. Then, after they'd announced the trade, posted on Twitter, given Bol Bol's number to James Ennis,
right?
Detroit comes back and pending the physical, which almost always gets cleared, Detroit fails the physical. The trade is off. No trade. So this is the official stance. The official stance is that the Pistons found something with Bol Bol's surgically repaired foot, and so he is not does not clear their requirements, and therefore they failed him. The Nuggets are adamant that there is nothing on their end, that their doctors, training staff, experts, everyone that's talked to Bol has cleared that foot, that there are no problems there, which is why.
By the way, I texted my buddy Dr. Balaji, who I always text to for this stuff, and his response was, "Doctors shouldn't have disagreements about imaging." that was his response to me. So take that for what you will.
So, wait, say that again. Say that one to me one more time.
Doctors should not have disagreements about imaging, meaning it seems very fishy that two doctors can look at the same imaging and have different opinions on it, meaning imaging is usually pretty clear on these matters.
Okay. That's interesting. So look, regardless of the reason, this is where we're at. The ramifications are bad all over on the Nuggets side and the Bol side, right? Because the Nuggets are now going to have to try and engage with teams for Bol and try and convince them. And those teams are immediately going to be like, wait, what did the Pistons find that you didn't? Because you said that it was fine and they said it wasn't. And so there's going to be this heightened level of scrutiny. Like, do you even want to mess with that? Like, do you want to mess with that at all? That's a problem. It's bad for Bol just because he was ready to move on from that chapter. Like, they were all ready to move on from that chapter. You know, Malone talked about how he left on good terms. I don't know how much I believe that overall, given some of the things that Bol's liked on social media and his general attitude. But he's said, but Malone said that they were in a good place and they wished him well and wanted good things for him. And now Bol doesn't get that fresh start. I do wonder if this is just simply going to be a matter of eventually the Nuggets just wind up paying out the remainder and waiving him. I just wonder if that's going to have to be the end result of this, so that there's just going to have to be a waive.
You take away one suitor. I mean, there's only a handful of suitors that you look at that you say, okay, it makes a lot of sense for them to go. Detroit's one of them. They're the worst team in the NBA. Okay, you take a flyer on an upside guy. So there's no question. And then, just anytime we saw immediately after this news dropped, I mean, like within 30 minutes after this news dropped, Domantas Montejunas, one of my old favorites, Demo, back in the day of a little blast from the past, he tweets in anger, basically saying, this same thing happened to me with Detroit. I get traded to them. They void the trade at the last minute. And all of a sudden I have this black mark on me and nobody wants to take a flyer. I'm damaged goods. So he personally was upset about this thing with Bol because he's saying, hey, this same thing happened and this affects somebody's career. So I don't know if it'll have the same impact on Bol. Well, I mean, obviously that was an opportunity for him to go and shine, and now it's one less opportunity. But to me, this is a little strange. I'm just going to say, so somebody in the comments, Nicholas, is saying people disagree. This is the quote I got from when I texted my doctor buddy, who again is a orthopedic surgeon. So he deals with sports medicine all the time. He says, most radiologists should agree. I assume the radiologists here should have a similar thought process. I think it's probably an excuse to avoid the trade. That was his interpretation of the details that were made public. So And on this one, a disagreement on the imaging. I'm sorry, he's saying they shouldn't have one in this instance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know the details of I honestly don't know. Like, I have not like dug into Bol Bol's medical history to know enough about the injury, right? Like, you're never a doctor, but you try and learn as much as you can about various injuries. I have no idea. It seems weird to me. It seems very weird. The stuff with Moti Hunis, I think, is very interesting too. In that I don't. Again, here's another thing I don't know. I don't know if the training staff is the same as when he was there. Like, they may have, because the Nuggets have carried over their training staff from previous regimes, right? But with Troy Weaver having come in a couple of years ago, like, I just don't know. I don't know if the doctors have changed or if it's all the same people. I have no idea.
But we know this also from the Michael Porter situation. And look, the Clippers doctor was the one that checked him out and said all these things, and everybody just goes off of that report. So we know that this stuff kind of has a hive. You put a label on a guy, and all of a sudden everybody looks at him this way. So I understand what a player is saying when something like this happens. You really hope that everything checks out appropriately when something like this happens.
I also want to note that for people wondering, like, why aren't the Nuggets playing him, or why? And there's a lot of people that are like, why won't they trade him? And it's like, look, they would love to, like, it's not like the Pistons said no and then immediately the Nuggets had another deal lined up 30 seconds after, right? Like, there's a reason that he's available on the market. Mike Singer of the Denver Post believes that Bol will be back with the team. That's what he believes. So take that for what it's worth. I don't know.
How could you not? I mean, I don't know that this is a situation.
Because I would probably lean to, like, if I were in that spot, I would likely be like, hey, why don't you stay home? And we'll figure out if we can find a place for you. Because there's a level of embarrassment, I think, with the whole situation that I have a little bit of sympathy for Bol about.
Oh, I definitely have sympathy. It sucks. I definitely have sympathy, but I'm also just of the mind of, like, this is the job.
Sure.
It's a weird job, but not most jobs have trades.
True.
You can't get traded. Locked on Lakers, Matt. You've been traded. Like, can you imagine how weird that would be? Like, wow, all right, I guess.
So, oh God, I have to live in LA. Ugh. So that's one thing on the docket. There's been a lot of questions about the DeMarcus Cousins situation. I don't have anything for you on the DeMarcus Cousins situation. Talking to you, the listener, like, I don't have anything on it. I don't know what the hang up is. I don't know what the deal was. I had assumed that the delay was protocol, that he needed to clear protocol, and that was taking the delay. But now it seems like there might be a hang up, based off of the stuff that you talked about with Shams and those conversations, etc. And then 2, the timing of this and how long it's taken to get there. So I don't know what the hang up is. I still kind of expect it to happen, just because it feels weird that the Nuggets would, unless Cousins is making some sort of unreasonable demand, which why would he? Then I don't see why this wouldn't go ahead and happen.
Well, if it does happen, I would expect it today, because the Nuggets have a back-to-back this weekend. So, and you go up against, notable big players, with the Lakers and with Utah. So to me, I would expect it to happen now. If it lingered it past this weekend, I'd be like, maybe something else is going on. It's just not going to go through.
What else we got? I think what else is on the docket?
What other news and notes?
There's so much stuff. There's been a lot of stuff going on. It's been MPJ. Let's talk MPJ real quick before we go to
There was smoke for a while. It's like it's getting smokier.
Yeah. Okay. So MPJ has a video of him shooting, right? And you had mentioned that your understanding was that it wasn't ruled out. You mentioned that before. That is kind of where I think the situation is at. There is a non-zero chance that MPJ returns this season. I think the timing remains very difficult.
Yeah. No question.
Kind of like this is kind of the thing is, if he gets back, it's going to be like, hey, it's March. Like, the best case scenario is like, hey, it's March 22nd, 25th. You've got essentially 3 weeks until the playoffs, maybe April. Do you want to try and get him back on the court, back in conditioning speed, just in time for the playoffs to start, when it gets even messier? Like, and the physicality gets really intense.
Yeah.
they were saying last night, apparently on the broadcast, I missed this, that like MPJ is having trouble just like jumping. Like he can shoot, but like jumping is difficult for him, which seems like a problem.
Oh, I don't think that's what they said on the broadcast. I think they said that the Nuggets are telling him not to jump. So I think it's more specifically, I don't know that he's having pain with it as much as they're like, there's a steps that you go through and we don't want you like putting too much bounce on it just yet.
Apparently I'll say this is maybe the best news, is apparently he feels really good.
Right.
That's like, that to me is like really good news, is that he feels way better. Because as much as like some of the early season struggles, he was definitely injured, but I was still like, I don't know. Like a lot of this is like stuff that we saw before. If he was just in so much discomfort, that does explain a lot more. If it was just like a lot of pain, and if he feels that much better, that I think could be a lot better.
He's 6'11" and a super athlete. He missed a dunk. Like I'm past the point of wondering if he was in pain. It's very clear he was like not himself or what have you.
Sure.
Here the thought process. So again, I always text the doctor whenever I have these questions. He texts me on this one. He says extent of leg pain is what will limit him, and if he feels good and pain free, he can come back this season. So you're right. First of all, let me ask you this question: what's the Warriors' record since Klay Thompson came back?
Oh, I would say 0-3.
No, they got one win. The first, I think they got one. I think they're 1-3 or one. I think it's 1-3. And now is that because Klay Thompson's bad? No, there's always a shock to the system anytime you bring back a guy, even a guy like Klay Thompson, who's just like everybody feels good. With Murray, you expect there to be a shock to the system. There's probably an immediate adrenaline hit, and then there's a figuring it out. Michael Porter obviously is even more so because even when he was fully healthy, sometimes it was a little bit like, okay, where does this guy fit in and this or that? Even though the numbers were always great. I mean, let's be clear. Even when it was bad, it was good with Michael Porter. So bringing him back obviously complicates it too. The one thing I would say, I'm curious if you try to line those up. I have no idea what the time frame is with Michael Porter. It sounds like it's maybe a little bit later. Do you try to line those up so you're giving one huge shock to the system? And then number two, with Jamal Murray, I think everybody knows, like, you want him to come back, you want him to start, and you want to get him with Jokic and get that going because that's the identity of this team. So you have to redo it. With Michael Porter, I do feel like there is could we just bring him off the bench this year? If he comes back, could we just bring him off and play him 15 minutes a game and he's a corner 3-point shooter? And if not, isn't that a good value add to have this like 50% corner 3-point shooter that all he does is that? Yeah. And maybe this year you just, the understanding between player and team is, hey, we're not bringing you back to be the guy you can be. We're bringing, your potential. We're bringing you back to make some threes for us, space the court, and play a low limits minutes. Next year, we'll get you back into the, third best player on our team or whatever role.
Yeah. I think Jamal starts. That's my personal opinion. Is I think Jamal, like Klay Thompson did. I think Jamal starts.
Oh, really? Right from game one.
Yeah, I think he starts from game one. I think MPJ comes back off the bench if he comes back.
Yeah.
So, but look, I'll just say this. If they get Jamal and MPJ back, that changes like everything, right? Easy back half of the schedule, lots of home games, get some momentum. The worst times are behind you. You push to the end. Even if you wind up in the 6th spot, I think you're okay because, like, look, right now, as we stand on it right now, the 3-6 is Memphis. It's Memphis. Yeah. It's Memphis Nuggets, which Memphis I think if you're
good,
Denver,
Memphis is so.
Oh yeah,
good.
No, they're really good. They're really good. But here's the thing: I don't think you look at that like I wouldn't look at that and go, "That's an impossible task." Like I would not think that at all. So I think you can definitely. I think, especially if it's 3-6, and then I honestly kind of think that you want the Warriors. I think you want the Warriors versus the Suns. If you have to go through one, but not both, which you probably have to go through both. But if you only have to go through, if I told you got to go through one of the Warriors and Suns, who would you pick?
Oh man, this is crazy to say, but I think Warriors. The Suns are just so well rounded. Yeah. They're so good. I think maybe Warriors. The Warriors have a way higher peak and a way lower floor.
Yeah. I think Jokic's advantage in particular is much greater versus the Warriors than it is versus the Suns. I think his advantage is muted versus the Suns, not muted, just like quieter.
Right.
Because of, like, he's mentioned like the Ayton matchup, right? Like he's mentioned that's tough. And if you have that versus Kevon Looney and Draymond, who especially, here's the thing, the Warriors would be like, we got to go to 5, we got to go small ball 5, we got to switch everything, we got to play Draymond at 5, and we're gonna dare, like, if you can beat Draymond, okay, but if Jokic beats Draymond, the system breaks down. Like the system breaks if you beat him. So that would be kind of be the idea. And so it's weird. 2 days ago, and it's not because they got a win versus the Blazers last night. It's that being closer to the team, and we've talked about this before, you do get the sense that things are never as bad as they kind of seem when you're around the team. They're just like, the players are like, yep, lost a game, probably gonna lose another one sometime.
Yeah, frustrating so sometimes, but yes, it's true.
Let's take a break. We'll come back. I want to talk about the games this weekend versus the Lakers and the Jazz. Big weekend coming up for the Nuggets. We'll do that when we come back. But first, the NFL playoffs are this weekend, and the Broncos are, oh no, that's right. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. I have money on the Steelers versus that team I'm not going to mention. Just telling you, I am genuinely terrified for this game. I'm not jinxing it. I genuinely have money on the Steelers. I am very concerned they're just going to find a way to WTF a win this weekend. Big payout, 5-1. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, and boxing, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, thanks for making this part of your day, making this your first listen each and every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Bets with your boy Q and Lee Sterling. They've given you the expert analysis to get your bets in every single day. That's Locked On Bets, wherever you get podcasts. Back here with Adamara's final segment. All right, Adam, 2-game set at Ball Arena as the 6-game homestand continues. You can tell that Michael Malone is very excited to be home, as one of his assistants told him they've been home like twice since Thanksgiving, and he was very annoyed at that schedule. So the Lakers come in at what I would probably describe as their absolute nadir, coming off of the loss to the Kings, their second loss to the Kings this season. They split the season series with the Kings, always a warning sign, as Nuggets fans well know. So look, it's LeBron. They've been playing LeBron at small ball 5. That worked for a little while, but the defense has been really bad when they do that. And I don't think that LeBron's going to want to be like, yeah, let me play Jokic for 35 minutes. That sounds fun at age 37. I'm very curious to see what lineups they use here, right? Because Dwight had a lot of success versus Jokic in the playoffs. No AD in this game. This matchup is really interesting based off of how different the Lakers are this year and how much they need like a quality win. This is I wouldn't say it's a big game, but I would say it's a bigger. The Lakers games are always big because it's the Lakers. But more importantly, this is a team that you're battling for the play-in spot. And getting a win, I think, coming off of the Portland win, being like, you know what, that Clippers spot was the low point. We've turned a corner. It would be really good, especially going into the Sunday game versus the Jazz. I think it'd be very good to get a win on Saturday.
And also, weirdly enough, I think it's the standings will reflect this. If the Lakers get a win, they're basically going to be tied with Denver in the standings. If Denver gets a win, they're going to be 2 games up on the Lakers in the standings, which is no small thing. I do also feel like it's a big game for both teams. If the Nuggets can get that win, I think they feel better about themselves. Okay, we just beat LeBron. Yes, the Lakers have been shorthanded, but anytime you beat LeBron, and conversely, if the Lakers get the win, it's definitely a statement win for them too. It's like, okay, we got a little bit, they just lost to the Kings. It's like, okay, we got something going. But more to your point here, there's 2 things. Dwight Howard has been a pest for Nikola Jokic. He has gotten under his skin. He has frustrated him. He has drawn fouls against him at an absurd rate. So to me, I do want to see like, how do you handle that now? Like, he's out there to goon. Let's see how you do it. And then number 2, the Lakers have found some success with LeBron at center. And obviously that's an enormous compromise for them defensively. So Jokic should be the guy that can most take advantage of it. And I do expect we're going to see some LeBron versus Jokic matchups, which is just kind of funny to think about.
Remember that first time that Jokic scored on LeBron in the post?
Oh, it's a top moment.
Yeah. It was like the early days of Jokic where he scored on LeBron in the post.
It was honestly like an arrival moment. Like
Yeah.
this guy had something to him.
This is gonna shock you. Do you know who I think should play significant minutes in this game?
Who?
Facu Campazzo.
Why?
Westbrook absolutely hates pests.
Mm,
He is a player that gets tilted and he responds by over aggressing. He's trying very hard right now to try and find some sort of formula for success. First, it was the turnovers. You can't have double digit turnovers, so he turns down the turnovers. Now it's like we can't shoot 2 of 12 from the field. Like nothing he does is working. Nothing he does is good right now, and the fans are really brutal. If Campazzo is on the court, and here's the thing: if Campazzo gets beat by Westbrook on the perimeter, Westbrook's been so bad finishing layups lately. I don't know that that's a loss for the Nuggets. They used to be. But I don't know that that's a loss as long as you have some sort of help rotation on the other side. Campazzo on Westbrook is not actually a bad. You can play drop versus Westbrook versus having to play up at the level.
yeah.
And I think you can play Facu and have him just annoy him. And I think that's actually a pretty good matchup. We'll have to see if Barton's available. That's going to be a big key, I think, for the offense. The Lakers' offense has been much better because that's the whole problem is like the Nuggets offense has been bad when Barton's not available. Another thing that's kind of nice about having Jeff Green in this matchup is you don't have to put Aaron Gordon on LeBron, which I actually think is a good thing. I think it's good to have Gordon as like a help defender versus tasking Gordon and being like, hey, I know that he's about 1.25 times your size, but I'm going to need you to guard the greatest player in a generation. Being able to take turns, have it be like, all right, Jeff's going to take him for this stint, and then we're going to switch it up and run Gordon on him. Those combinations, I think, are better just in terms of surviving the onslaught that is LeBron.
Yeah, you mentioned the Lakers offense lately. They're actually number 1 offense over the last 10 games and like the number 26 defense or something. So, and a lot of this is you put LeBron at center. Of course, you're not going to stop a lot of guys, but Jokic having to guard LeBron is also a mismatch. Like that's a double-sided mismatch. So that's why I say this game will be a really interesting sort of style fight. Lakers coming in with some rest.
Have Jeff Green guard LeBron and Jokic can guard Westbrook.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Might actually be kind of a funny little, let's just see what happens if we do this kind of
and
thing.
Just like completely play off of him and just like Jokic just stands 3 feet off of him and protects the rim.
I mean, the Nuggets need to make shots. I mean, this is a big part of it is, if the Lakers can score, and maybe, they probably will score against Denver just with the weirdness and the style that they play. It's just, can Denver make shots? Last night they shot 50%. Their guys were in rhythm from the 3-point line. They felt good. If you're at home 2 games in a row now, do you knock down shots? If so, I do think you can put too much pressure on the Lakers. So we'll just have to see what happens.
I need to see this. There's this number that I've been tracking for betting purposes and consistently year over year, which is I'm not gonna pull up the trend right now, but in games where a team hits over 23s in a game, the Nuggets hit 21 last night. The following game, the under hits like I think 70% of the time because the team regresses so badly. So little bit of a warning sign there. Not foolproof. There are definitely outlier instances. It's good to be in rhythm, but
it's also like how many of those games are back-to-back home. I just think Denver here, I'm not saying it will happen, Matt. I'm just saying the part of what would make this a successful homestand is Denver actually shooting well in a row, and you're more likely to do that at home when you have a little bit of no travel in between. So that's why I'm curious, because especially Denver this year has had like good shooting nights that were followed up by 3 straight bad ones. So this would be an outlier, but it's also an outlier just that they're playing back-to-back home games.
Utah on Sunday to me is a schedule loss. I know you're home. I get it, and I know that they played the Jazz tight in that first matchup where Jokic got hurt at half, and they probably would have won that game. But a back-to-back versus Utah, Rudy fully rested. The Jazz have been really inconsistent and pretty rough this year, comparatively speaking. But to me, this looks like a schedule loss. Like I don't have a whole lot of like we'll see. Like the Nuggets always play. I feel like that's going to be a loss.
Well, so Rudy Gobert is back, and it will actually be his first, the Jazz's first game since Wednesday. So talk about like a team that needs a vibes win. Utah's coming in on a 4-game losing streak. They've dropped in the standings. That game is going to be really big to them, and they have 5 days somehow to prepare for it. Denver will have 21 hours to prepare for it. Such BS. By the way, I've told you my rant, right? The Nuggets play the Jazz 4 times this year. 3 times the Nuggets are on the second night of a back-to-back. What the heck is wrong with these people?
I don't know. I think the only thing I can kind of hypothesize is that because it's a shorter trip, right? Like they treat it almost like playing, because they do back-to-backs in California too. You'll notice that the California teams will play each other on back-to-backs because it's like, okay, if you're gonna have a back-to-back, at least with the Warriors, it's like you're driving 2 hours to Sacramento, right? Or it's LA, right? Versus, I think there's this idea of Denver and Utah because they're so geographically close, because Denver's not close to literally anything, and neither's Utah, that there's kind of this idea of we put those on a back-to-back, but it doesn't really make sense in this context because it's a home back-to-back, right? Like Denver's got the back-to-back. I don't know. Would you rather? At least it's at home versus the last.
It is true. At least it is home. That is a big difference. Like a road back-to-back, I think, is twice as hard. But like Utah is going to probably be at the Lakers game. They're in town. They're rested. They're going to watch. They're going to scout. It's just a weird schedule. But whatever. They played on Wednesday. This is Friday. They played on Wednesday and then they play again on Sunday. That's how long they have off. Maybe they're rusty. Who knows?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe they're rusty. We'll see. There's a lot of weird things going on with that team, just in terms of like there's trade talks. Like they are a team that may do a trade. So
did they get you wins though? It's also statement win. Like this could be a statement weekend for the Nuggets. I'm not expecting it, but Lakers, Jazz, you have an opportunity here to feel good about yourself for the first time in like 20 games. Like really, truly good about yourself. Not just that we picked up a win here or there, but you really feel good. And by the way, Barton is a big piece. If he's out, obviously this changes what I'm about to say, but the Nuggets are as healthy as they've been at any point this season. Basically, they have everybody back. Even Marcus Howard was back. So there's an opportunity for you to kind of feel good and say, hey, when we're complete, we're not that bad.
Zamora says the Jazz show up after the Nuggets beat LA like the cheerleaders on Bring It On. Like it. All right, let's go wrap it up for Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll be back. We'll do are we doing a recap after Saturday, after the Laker game?
Hell yeah.
We're doing a recap after the Lakers
Especially
game.
if they win.
We'll be back on Saturday. We'll be back on Sunday night after the Jazz game as well. Make sure to look out for those episodes. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Guys, we jumped like 100 followers on the subscribers in the week.
We're close to 1,000.
We're getting really close to
2,000. I'm back.
Adam once again believes we can get to 2,000 by All-Star break. Help out Adam. I'm a hater. I don't believe so. Help us out. Thanks so much for joining us, everybody. Thanks to the folks jumping in the comments. We'll see you guys again